Hello fellow music lovers, this is my channel, The Outre Approach. I plan on going through Cannibal Corpse's discography and try to review all their albums that they have released in the 20-30 years that they've been around. So I'm going to start with the first album. It was released in 1990. This was their first full-length album that introduced them to the metal scene. This album was titled Eaten Back to Life, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into the review. Since this is the band's first album, I'll give you a little information about when they got started. So, Cannibal Corpse is based from Buffalo, New York. They got together in December 1988, and I believe the members at that time were Alex Webster, Paul, I cannot pronounce his last name, Paul, I'm going to try this, Mazurkiewicz. Those are the constant members throughout the band's lifetime. And it seems like in the beginning, the members were Jack Owen on rhythm guitar, Chris Barnes on vocals, Bob Rousset on lead guitar, and then we have Paul Mazurkiewicz on the drums for this album. There are a lot of death metal bands, especially in the 90s, that never reached the success that Cannibal Corpse did. I think a huge part of that success was the explicit content on the front of the album. Because I can only think back, or think of people that would walk into record stores, in 1990, and I can only imagine them looking through the records and then seeing this cover, if it wasn't covered already by the record store owner, so no one could see it. You just have to imagine someone, that listens to brutal music, metal music, maybe Slayer, or any type of, heavy music and metal, and then to see the front of this record. This is something they really pioneered in, the brutality concept of the artwork. And I really think it launched their popularity to where a lot of albums, that were probably good never got picked up because they just didn't spark interest in people's minds. But this album definitely did, just with the brutality of it. The name of the band, Cannibal Corpse, a picture of a zombie seemingly eating his own flesh and pulling out his intestines, and the title of the album is Eaten Back to Life. And I could just imagine, if I was like 14 or 15 years old in 1990 and liked metal music, or maybe didn't even like metal music, but I would look at that and be like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like that, especially in public. So, you know what, let me just buy it out of curiosity. And what I believe happened was a lot of people did that, but then once they actually listened to the band, they realized, it's just not the artwork. This band is brutal, and I'm sure most people couldn't understand the lyrics, but just the instruments and the growling really probably caught people's attention in 1990. So that's what I think happened in that age. But as far as the music on the album goes, I think this was the closest that Cannibal Corpse ever got to thrash metal. And their first album, it's not as tight, it's not as technical as they would later become. The production quality is not the best, but you gotta remember it was 1990. So what would really set them apart musically? Well, the vocals, for instance. Even if you took Slayer tracks or early thrash metal and threw Chris Barnes' vocals over it, it would sound completely different than the music did. Cannibal Corpse also has their way of, including different type of drum beats than thrash metal, and they kind of find their way into death metal. I feel like Personally, I feel like a lot of their influence comes from thrash, but I feel like they were trying to do something different. They were trying to make something a lot heavier than thrash metal, and that's how I feel like during this album they were finding their way into death metal. And Chris Barnes' vocals on this album, they're not as pronounced as they would later become. You really can't understand anything unless you had the lyrics to look at. Then it all kind of makes sense. But I really wonder if they put the lyrics out when they released the album in 1990. Because as bad as the cover was, I feel like if someone actually read the lyrics, they would be pretty shocked. But another thing this album does differently is the different effects they put on certain songs. For example, the very beginning song of the entire album, track 1, is Shredded Humans. And the beginning of the track, they don't go straight into, their instruments and start playing, start the song. It starts off with these very creepy sound effects that almost sound like I don't know, like a boiling volcano, or I don't know, sound or something in water. It's a really disturbing sound, and I think Cannibal Corpse's goal was to start off with this album by pushing the limits of what metal was. And with this album, I think they signified a new path for death metal. This was a really great album, and it has a lot of good tracks on it. And let me see if I can think of my favorite tracks. I know Shredded Humans is a great song, but it has a lot of good tracks. Shredded Humans, Mangled, Born in a Casket, and just like the beginning of Born in a Casket, it's like this. It's not, and that also kind of differs itself from thrash, because the beginning of the song, it's slow, and it's dun 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 dun. It's just ominous. So a lot of the beginnings of their song were just ominous, and it would just lead up to this insanity. And I really think true fans of Cannibal Corpse can really enjoy this album. I don't think it's the first album someone should listen to by Cannibal Corpse, because it is not their best work. However, some enthusiasts of the band really might think so. I personally do not think it is their best work. But if you do listen to Cannibal Corpse, you need to go back to this album, because you can see where they started at, and if you keep looking through the rest of their albums, you can obviously see where the evolution took place. But I'm going to go ahead and give this album a rating of 7.5. And of course, the rating only applies to music within this genre. So if I reviewed an album from a different genre and I rated it, it wouldn't count for all genres. So the rating just depends on a genre. So it's a 7.5 out of 10 for a metal album. And I really enjoyed it, and if you get a chance, definitely listen to it. So this is the Outre Approach. Take it easy.